The emergence of a generational paradigm-shifting superstar in the fiercely competitive and harsh world of professional sports affects more than just television numbers and corporate sponsorship portfolios. For each and every player currently occupying a roster position, it drastically and violently modifies the fundamental laws of survival. The physical geometry, cardiovascular endurance, and precise biomechanical requirements needed to stay on the basketball court are all completely redefined when an offensive engine like Caitlin Clark joins an organization. You are no longer playing half-court basketball in the conventional, static style. You're taking part in an intense, demanding, fast-paced track meet. You basically have two options in this brand-new, extremely profitable economy. You can see your career gradually fade into complete irrelevance while obstinately refusing to change and whining about your lack of offensive touches. Alternatively, you may examine the situation's unvarnished mathematical reality, fully reorganize your physical biology, tie your own brand to the multi-million-dollar spotlight, and secure an unparalleled degree of generational prosperity. Two players on the Indiana Fever have quietly implemented the most clever, ruthless survival strategy in the modern history of the sport, while the vast majority of the WNBA Players Association is pleading with the billionaire owners for a larger share of the league's gross revenue. A collective bargaining agreement won't save Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull. They are developing enormous private equity portfolios off the court, actively changing their bodies, and giving their new head coach quiet ultimatums. Welcome to the breakdown. Let's reveal the astounding corporate and biological development of the Caitlin Clark period and the reasons why the league's most astute role players are secretly creating empires while everyone else is battling for scraps. Examining Sophie Cunningham's dramatic and unparalleled physical metamorphosis during the offseason is necessary to fully comprehend the physical toll that the Caitlin Clark method requires of its athletes. Within her exceptionally strong 6-year career, Cunningham developed a very particular and well-respected reputation within the league. The enforcer was her. She was the one who set the physical tone, for she was the player who was prepared to take the harsh, almost flagrant, music of fouls, push her body into the paint, and take physical revenge on the seasoned veterans who were making a valiant effort to intimidate the rookie point guard for the Indiana Fever. She had the structural bulk necessary to set bone-crushing screens at 165 pounds and endured the intense physicality of the WNBA's conventional half-court style of play. However, Cunningham, a basketball star with an exceptionally high IQ, realized a horrifying truth. Being a heavy stationary enforcer is a death sentence for your playing time in the Caitlin Clark economy. Listen to the startling, unvarnished disclosure of Sophie Cunningham's recent drastic biological rearrangement to make sure she stays a crucial component of this championship puzzle.
As she is recovering from her season-ending knee injury, Cunningham shared that she underwent a major change this offseason. Previously listed at 165 pounds, revealed that she is now down to 148.5 pounds.
She went from weighing 165 pounds to 148.5 pounds. For a professional athlete who must already maintain an exceptional level of physical conditioning, that is an astounding enormous loss of almost 16 pounds of body mass. However, you must comprehend the profound biomechanical method that underlies this significant weight loss. Cunningham is presently recuperating from a tear in her knee's medial collateral ligament. Carrying too much weight is a surefire way to end your career while you are trying to heal a serious ligament injury and getting ready to play in the league's fastest-paced, highest possession offense. The sheer force applied to the knee joint during high-speed deceleration grows exponentially with each pound of mass. According to Cunningham's mathematical calculations, in order for her to physically survive the forthcoming season, she had to reduce her body to its most efficient and slim state. However, losing weight is about more than just avoiding injuries. It has to do with the unavoidable need to run the floor during a transition. Opposing defenses are completely destroyed by Caitlin Clark's incredible passing abilities before they had a chance to set up. As a wing player for the Indiana Fever, you are mathematically guaranteed to receive a perfectly placed 50-foot pinpoint pass that results in an uncontested layup or a wide-open corner three-pointer if you leak out in transition at the exact millisecond that the defensive rebound is secured. However, you must be quick enough to outpace your opponent on the floor. Listen to the insightful, unbiased tactical explanation of why Sophie Cunningham purposefully gave up her position as the team's heaviest enforcer in order to become a fast transition weapon.
The decision to cut down on weight, because she know Caitlin Clark has cut down on weight. Caitlin Clark got rid of all that The Rock in Fast 5 muscle. She's back to Iowa skinny CC. You know what that means?
She will run like a track star. Sophie Cunningham examined the previous season's footage. She observed Caitlin Clark losing her own muscle mass, becoming noticeably thinner, and getting ready to accelerate the shift to an unparalleled, draining degree. Cunningham recalled precisely what transpired with Aaliyah Boston in the early half of her sophomore year. Boston, used to the sluggish, deliberate post-up game, entered the year a little heavier. And she was clearly worn out throughout the first month of the season as she struggled mightily to keep up with her new point guard's unrelenting, hectic tempo. Boston didn't realize her full ability in the new system until she played herself into optimal cardiovascular condition. Cunningham is deliberately avoiding the period of transition. She removed the weight. Her cardiovascular engine was optimized. And after shooting an incredible 43% from beyond the arc previous season, she is returning to the Indiana Fever as a highly mobile, deadly catch-and-OOT weapon. She is making sure that she is the first person waiting in the corner when Caitlin Clark tosses the transition pass. However, in Indianapolis, survival requires more than just physical adaptability. The other half entails negotiating the perilous, extremely unstable coaching chemistry and locker room politics that currently pose a threat to the franchise as a whole. The team's attacking identity was drastically altered when the front administration appointed Stephanie White as head coach. White is an experienced coach who has close relationships with other seasoned athletes, namely Kelsey Mitchell. White may try to impose a classic veteran-heavy rotation that puts isolation scoring ahead of the fast-paced, spacing-dependent style that maximizes Caitlin Clark's generational gravity. This is a very real and dangerous prospect. At this point, Lexie Hull emerges as the most important and contentious piece of the championship puzzle. In women's basketball, Lexie Hull is without a doubt the model for the contemporary 3-and-D. She doesn't just ask for the ball. Regarding her consumption rate, she doesn't voice any complaints. She stretches the floor with highly effective perimeter shooting and plays oppressive, relentless perimeter defense. The Indiana Fever's offensive geometry becomes mathematically unassailable when Hull is on the court with Clark and Cunningham. However, instructors have a tendency to overanalyze the obvious. Take a listen to the extremely harsh and crucial public demand that head coach Stephanie White received about the imperative need to start Lexie Hull this season.
I'll tell you this, sidebar, Stephanie White, Lexie Hull better be a starter this year. She better be a starter this year. Don't try what you pulled last year, starting DeWanna Bonners and all.
Avoid playing games. This team needs to start Lexie Hull. The fan community is not making this recommendation lightly. It's a tactical directive. Stephanie White will instantly cause the entire offensive system to collapse if she tries to play political games with the starting lineup or bench Hull in favor of slower, more frequently used veteran players who interfere with spacing and demand isolation touches. A multi-million-dollar Ferrari engine is not put inside a car that has flat tires. You surround Caitlin Clark with low-ego, athletic shooters who run the floor at frightening speeds and play excellent defense. During the second half of the previous season, Lexie Hull demonstrated her complete indispensability. A team that was actively collapsing under the weight of season-ending injuries was stabilized by her tenacity, her defensive anchor, and her smooth harmony within the Tresek lineup. The coaching staff is engaging in tactical malpractice if they disregard this mathematical fact in order to satisfy seasoned egos. However, Lexie Hull is discreetly carrying out the most clever, extremely sophisticated off-court business strategy of the whole offseason while the fans and media vigorously argue over the starting lineups and the collective bargaining agreement. In the past, WNBA role players have relied only on their league paychecks to make ends meet. They don't receive Nike's enormous multi-million-dollar shoe deals. The national television ads for State Farm and Gatorade do not feature their music. They battle for the sports economy's absolute financial leftovers. However, Lexie Hull recently discovered a huge, unexplored gap in the contemporary attention economy, and she is leveraging it to create a private equity empire. Listen to the amazing, groundbreaking news about Lexie Hull's brand new business endeavor and discover why it exemplifies the Caitlin Clark halo effect's enormous financial power.
Off-season, Hull has also been building her off-court profile. Now, this is a part of the Caitlin Clark effect. Make no mistake about it. We've seen Sophie Cunningham in Nash and Arby's commercials.
Fora, a direct-to-consumer cosmetics brand created especially for high-performance athletes, is being introduced by Lexie Hull. Let's dissect this business strategy's utter brilliance. Launching a direct-to-consumer brand in the traditional business world is extremely risky and likely to fail due to the astronomically high cost of obtaining a customer through digital advertising. To get people to look at your stuff, you have to spend millions of dollars advertisements on Facebook and Instagram. However, Lexie Hull is not required to spend any money on advertising. Why? Because she enthusiastically embraces her part in the Tresek trio alongside Clark and Cunningham. She plays right next to the most attention-grabbing machine in women's sports history. Every time Lexie Hall takes the court, enters the pregame tunnel, or shares a video on social media, she receives millions of naturally occurring, highly engaged impressions. The Indiana Fever have a huge, devoted fan base that is extremely protective of the players who back their team's star. Hall is personally profiting from the enormous amount of attention that surrounds Caitlin Clark everywhere she goes by eschewing the conventional corporate sponsors and middlemen. This is the corporate halo effect in its purest form. Clark attracts millions of viewers, and her partners strategically place their own companies to take advantage of that enormous financial surplus.